Chapter 20, Showdown at Blue Springs. Coach, Mafade said in a whisper, it's all white people. The under-13s were walking onto the home field of the Blue Springs Liberty Fire in Loganville, Georgia, an old southern town down the road from other old southern towns with names such as Split Silk and Between. Luma looked around. It was true. Loganville was more than 90% white, and there wasn't so much as a suntan on the faces of the Liberty Fire or their parents. Luma reminded Mafode that the Fugees rarely faced teams with black players. I know, Mafode said, but they are all white. Let it go, Luma said. The Blue Springs Liberty Fire had a 3-2 record, but they were capable of scoring a lot of goals. 3 weeks before, they had beaten one team 10-0. The Fugees were groggy. The game was at 9 a.m. Luma had called her players the night before to remind them of the early start. It was chilly out, so she wouldn't have them walking to the library for pickup, as was the custom. Instead, the bus would go from complex to complex to pick the players up. She expected everyone to be waiting and ready. One by one, the sleepy Fugees had climbed onto the bus, all except for Jeremiah. He wasn't waiting out front, and there was no sign of life at Ziadi's apartment. Luma knew that Beatrice had been working a night shift at the box factory. She would be sound asleep, so Luma told Tracy to knock on the door. Startled awake, Jeremiah grabbed his uniform and dashed to the bus. At game time, he was more or less sleepwalking. Blue Springs struck first, taking the lead on an easy shot from 10 yards out. The Fugees were still not fully awake. They were getting knocked around. Grace caught a hand to the face and crumpled over in pain. Chindrum was bounced like a pinball between the bigger Blue Springs midfielders. He was already frustrated. You better watch out, Chindrum said at one point to the Blue Springs player who'd gotten away with a push. What are you going to do about it, the boy asked. Chindrum didn't have a comeback for that one. He was too small to do much harm to anyone, and he knew that if he tried anything rough, Luma would bench him. So he sucked it up. A few minutes later, Chindrum was chasing after a free ball in the Blue Springs goal box when the goalie took him out at the knees. Play was stopped, and Chindrum was taken to the sideline, wincing in pain. With her team trailing 1-0 at halftime, Luma lit into them. They were playing lazy soccer, she said. They were dribbling too much and not looking for the open man, and they were allowing themselves to get pushed around. Luma made just one adjustment, moving Jeremiah from defense up to midfield, where he could potentially set up Josiah. Chindrum's knee was still throbbing, but channeling the toughness he'd learned from his professional soccer playing grandfather, Chindrum told Luma he was ready to go back in. When I'm hurt and, we have to win because it's a hard team, he boasted later, I just take the pain. Just 2 minutes into the second half, Josiah made his way through 3 defenders, dribbling the whole way, before finding himself with a clear shot. He wheeled in behind the Blue Springs defenders and blasted a clean shot from 15 yards out, 1-1. The Fugees were awake. A few minutes later, Blue Springs was attacking when Mohammed went in for a tackle from behind. He missed the ball and took out the Blue Springs forward, a nasty foul. The referee blew the whistle, and Blue Springs quickly set up for a direct kick from nearly 25 yards out. The ball sailed over the Fugees' wall, across the face of the goal, and just into the top far corner. It was an amazing shot, and Eldon didn't stand a chance. It was 2-1 Blue Springs. Luma decided it was time to deploy her secret weapon. Quietly, she signaled to Bien to swap with Jeremiah from defense to center midfielder. The boys switched position, and to Luma's relief, the Blue Springs coach didn't seem to notice. Moments later, the Fugees managed a long pass down the field. Bien controlled the ball and tapped a pass to a streaking Edouard Decory, who got the ball into the net. As he did, the linesman raised his flag. Offside. The goal didn't count. The Fugees, though, weren't upset. There would be other chances. Minutes later, Chindrum and Bien worked the ball toward the goal. Chindrum controlled a pass at the top of the box and crossed it to Bien. For a moment, as the Blue Springs defenders converged, Bien looked as though he would pass it to Chindrum, who was now unmarked, but Bien fired a shot instead, surprising everyone, including the Blue Springs keeper. It was a goal. The game was now tied 2-2. Mark number 3, came a voice from the Blue Springs sidelines, calling out Bien's number. She changed him. Shh, thought Luma. The next few minutes were frantic. Both teams were playing hard, and the close game had drawn the attention of parents and players on local teams scheduled for games later in the morning. Blue Springs defenders now covered Bien, who was being set upon each time he touched the ball. But with 5 minutes left in the game, Bien again found himself on the receiving end of a pass. He looked upfield. Out of the corner of his eye, Bien spotted an orange jersey in open space. Edouard. Bien paused, then flicked a pass to Edouard, who volleyed it into the net. With minutes to go, the Fugees were finally ahead, 3-2. Blue Springs wasn't finished. They sent a long pass down the field, and a Blue Springs forward managed to slip behind the Fugees' defense. The ball was the only thing between Eldon and the Fugees' goal. The forward sprinted downfield. He'd have a shot. Out of the corner of her eye, Luma caught a glimpse of a streaking orange jersey. It was her youngest player, Robin DeCory, whose older brother Edouard had just scored. Tiny Robin slipped between the Blue Springs player and the ball and kicked it clear. Where did he come from? Luma wondered. A moment later, the referee blew the whistle to signal the end of the game. Luma was thrilled. Her team hadn't given up, had played as a unit, and had come from behind, a sign of toughness and resolve. And the victory put the under-13s within striking distance of first place if they could keep winning. The boys were excited too. They broke into song and began dancing as a group, to the surprise of their hosts. As the Fugees walked off the field toward their bus, a man on the Blue Springs sideline called out to them. "I'd have paid money to watch that game," he said.